Hello everyone, I'm Lee Arcanal. Today we're diving into the tactics, techniques, and procedures and behaviors exhibited by the DarkGate malware. What started out as a tool used for initial access and data gathering has now evolved into a multifunctional tool that can be used as a loader and a remote access trojan, or a rat. This nasty little malware doesn't have a specific target industry, but it has been used to mine cryptocurrencies and deploy ransomware and gather user credentials. So it's safe to say that this lives in the cybercrime arena where everyone could be a victim or a potential target. So, as usual, we're going to come to one of my go-to resources, which is the MITRE ATT&CK Matrix. And if you come up to the CTI dropdown, you can click on the software, and then on the left-hand side, you can scroll until you find DarkGate. So once you select that, it'll take you to the page and all the information that they have on it. And normally we pick around looking at the techniques used, but we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here, and we're going to select the second reference. And this is a report by Trellix that covers the evolution of the DarkGate malware. So let's go check it out. Early on in this report, we see that once a script is delivered to the victim through social engineering practices, it calls to the command and control server using the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP. And we can see it down here in the code snippet with the curl. When this happens, WebDAV runs and subsequently RunDLL32 calls a DLL that is associated with WebDAV, which is davclnt.dll or davclnt.dll. I don't know, I'm just going to name it. But this is directly related to the WebDAV execution. Now that we know this and that this is a byproduct of the design, and it's not something that the adversary has to call directly, we can now consider what we like to call a constant artifact. And you may be wondering why we're not picking this report apart like we normally do, where we're looking at tactics, techniques, and procedures. But really, we're trying to focus on the WebDAV and how it functions. If a user opens or unknowingly opens an external link, WebDAV runs, causing RunDLL32.exe to call the associated DLL. And I know I'm saying that way too much. But what that means is that the adversary doesn't have to explicitly call out that DLL. It will run automatically. So this would be a perfect example, once again, to be a constant artifact. And looking at this report, and specifically the link that was used to the payload, we can see an IP address that should lead us to malicious activity. However, if we try to hunt for that IP in our environment, well, we'll most likely come up empty-handed because once the adversary realizes their infrastructure is burned, they're going to switch to a different IP, another command control infrastructure. It's kind of like the worst version or most evil version of redundancy that you can imagine. But knowing that the IP will most likely change, we shift our focus from that indicator of compromise or that atomic indicator, and we focus on the constant artifacts or the behaviors of the attack, which means enter in the WebDAV DLL that will be called when the external link is opened. So once we're on the platform, we can jump to the Hunt package collections, and if we run up here and do a search on DarkGate, we should find the collection that we see. Once we're here, we can take a look at what Hunt package we want to use, and since we've been talking about WebDAV a lot, let's jump on this one, the abnormal execution of WebDAV DLL via RunDLL32, potentially malicious link, or exploitation. Quite the mouthful. But what has happened here is that our amazing content developers recognize that this behavior, and they researched it thoroughly to bring you a Hunt package that can be found in the DarkGate Hunt package collection, as you just saw. But this package helps you identify when lull bins, or living off lamb binaries, are coaxed to use WebDAV to communicate over HTTP. Looking at our query logic table, and if we scroll down here, we see the field value relationship that I always like to talk about, that we're looking for the process name being RunDLL32. We see the process command line contains that DLL, that davclnt.dll that we discussed earlier. And you see that we're also excluding the parent process path being command.exe. This helps identify some abnormal behavior. But once again, it's looking for RunDLL executing with the DLL that is associated with WebDAV being in the arguments. Now that we have an idea of what that looks like, let's take a look at what it looks like in that tool, which, as usual, Splunk. All right, so now once we're in tool, we can see that we took the query from the Hunt package collection, we threw it in our tool, and now we're trying to find the malicious activity. So once you have a result, it doesn't mean that it is actually malicious. So from here, now that we've gotten to that point where we've found an instance where that DLL is called, and we can see that in the command line arguments, by run DLL 32, the next logical step is to move backwards and find out what the parent process was, or you could always take a look at the URL or the IP that exists in the command line arguments as well. So there are multiple routes here that you can take once you find a result or a hit. And once again, I'd like to encourage you that these aren't always true positives, but if you're seeing HTTP used that's reaching out externally, and that's not expected in your environment, that's probably something you should think about and definitely investigate. Thank you, as always, for joining us for today's tutorial. I hope this explanation of the DarkGate malware has not only deepened your understanding of advanced threats, but also provided you with a vulnerable tool or set of tools for a proactive defense strategy. Don't forget to register for your free Hunter account to stay ahead in your threat hunting journey. With your free account, you can access the abnormal execution of WebDAV DLL via run DLL 32, potential malicious link or exploitation. This hunt package and start identifying this adversary in your environment. For more insights and updates, be sure to catch our next episode. Stay safe, and as always, happy hunting.